Well, hello plant lovers, it is Matthew in Melbourne welcoming you to my orchid channel. Thank you for finding me in the crowded world of orchid YouTube videos. I try to grow cold, cool, intermediate orchids here in Melbourne, Australia without the help of greenhouses or grow lights or humidifiers, really just me and them finding our way inside or outside or not at all. So, plant lovers of the world, if that sounds like your conditions, do hit subscribe. I post every week on a Friday and my ramblings might help you in figuring out your own orchid journey. And my journey today, plant lovers, is with cattleyas. Now, normally, cattleyas are a reason to celebrate and be joyous when they bloom. Yes, indeed, because it's taken me years to get any to flower. But look, two different plants. And my goodness, isn't this a Devil Wears Prada moment? So different. Not. So hilarious. This one, bless its cotton socks. Look, it's now in a Vander basket and it's just kind of going mad. And look, two spikes, which is fantastic. And this one opened first, and then this one opened. And when this one opened, the top one, it was very, very different colors, very much paler. And I thought you would have thought they were two completely different plants. But as it's matured, it's come to resemble its sibling over here. Anyway, this plant I bought as a seedling in one of those little plastic tubes you can get here in Australia in hardware stores for $8.95, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, when I knew nothing about orchids and nothing about Cattleya. And I had it in the wrong light and this, that and the other, but it grew magnificently from a little tiny seedling. I think the origins of which you can still see down at the base there. And it is a very vigorous grower. As you can see, it's a massive plant. And then last year, lo and behold, it flowered slightly desultory and there was two spikes. One of them, unfortunately, just sort of rotted and came to nothing. But this year, look, two bouncy, very healthy spikes. And this one has got 4 blooms and this one has got 2. And after all this time of waiting, I have to say, I don't love the flowers. It's the spots. Now, I know a lot of cattleyas are bred for their spots and that spotty characteristic is transferred from one to the other, but I really don't like it. It just looks dirty, although it's kind of been sprayed with mauve fairy dust. Anyway, bless you, Cattleya. I was told off for mispronouncing it once. Very, very beautiful, but So I was prepared to put up with it because I've grown this plant from a seedling and it's been dropped. I've cut the growth points off. It's had rot, it's had mealybugs, it's had scale. I mean, you name it, this plant has had it and it just keeps going. And every now and then I'll find something else that's gone on with it, but it just keeps bouncing back. Very, very tough. So I thought, right, I can grow cattleyas now. The thing is, of course, to find the right ones. Now, let me tell you what this is. It's Cattleya Claesiana Flamea. Now, Claesiana is a hybrid between two species, intermedia and Legicii, both of which are cooler climate cattleyas. So you can get warmer ones and cooler growing ones, or ones that can tolerate cooler temperatures. So mine grow outside all year, undercover, but they have to deal with the winter and nighttime minimums. And as long as they're dry, they're okay. The cooler ones, the more tropical ones, ain't gonna like you. So by accident, this seedling happens to be a cooler growing Cattleya and perfect for Melbourne's climate. And look, there it is. So I was prepared to put up with the fact that I don't love the blooms because it's just been with me since a child and here it is. So I then started to think, right, well, I kind of now know the sort of cattleyas I want to grow, the cooler climate ones. It's just finding hybrids or species that come from that particular climatic region. So there's a grower here called Orchids on Newbold, and I'll put the link below, and he has similar conditions to me. So any Cattleya he has, I know I can grow. And so exhibit B, this one I bought last year at the orchid fair. Now I'm holding them next to each other. Actually, look at the back. It's actually quite beautiful, isn't it? I suppose, but it just, again, look, they're almost the same. I mean, they're slightly different, but look at that. Basically versions of the same thing. Spotty, dirty, mauve cattleyas. Oh, now it's my own fault because this one, the flowers had died when I bought it. I think they were sort of shriveled, but I had a vague sense of the color, but they were quite dead. But nonetheless, I was just determined to buy cattleyas that this guy grew because I knew I could grow them. But what are the odds that basically, I mean, it's now flowered a year later, and look at it, it's looking beautiful and it's growing well, but the flowers are almost the same. So it brings one to a dilemma, does it not, plant lovers, which is, I have learnt through my other channel with Stephen Ryan, it's called The Horticulturalists, I'll link it if you're interested, general horticulture channel, to be ruthless, particularly if you don't have much space. And if you don't like something, or something is not thriving, or it's just the wrong plant in the wrong place, then you've got to get rid of it. And I would love to have cattleyas, and I would love a collection of them, but I cannot have two that are basically the same because I don't have that much space. Now I have got a beautiful white flowering one, massive large white flowers, which has just gone over. It was sold to me as a species. Everyone on this channel has said, I don't think it is, which is fine. I actually don't care what it is. It's stunning, massive flower, the beautiful frilly lip. I'll link that video up there. It's not the species that the film's called. And I have some of the smaller orange ones, which are very much predisposed to loving Melbourne. So I'm getting a collection of ones that I know do really well for me. So I'm afraid, and this one, I haven't given you the name. This one is Cattleya intermedia Orlata X Dennis. There we are. You see Dennis? There we are. So again, intermedia, cooler climate, and it's one of the ancestors of this one. So perhaps that is why they are so similar. I mean, I guess it's quite lovely. The lip's very beautiful with that very, very deep magenta tip, and then these splodges. But yeah, one splodge is enough, not two. So I think what I'm going to do, I have to wait for my others to kind of bulk up with the other colours, just to make sure that I've got a nice cross section. For the meantime, as these are so easy to bloom, I'm just going to keep them until I've got bigger divisions at flowering size, and then I'm going to offload this one, I think, because this has sentimental love in my heart, because bless this seedling, as I said, been with me since the dawn of time and managed to thrive and flower. But there's no room for two. No room for two. So there we are, plant lovers. This is really a lesson in when to let go. Quick care then. As you know, cattleyas, bright indirect light. Mine are outside all year in bright indirect light. They're undercover, so they don't get rained on, but they deal with the winter minimum temperatures I get here, which don't really get that close to freezing. Close enough, it can get cold, but not freezing, no frost. And I keep them dry in winter, but I still water them, and I water them a lot more in the warmer parts of the year, which is spring, summer, autumn, and topical dressing of slow release fertilizer in spring, liquid fertilizer throughout the year, really watered down though, dial that down. And that's kind of it. When they finish flowering, before the new growth emerges, I do try and remember to ease up on the watering, just to give them a time to kind of rest, because they're not really doing that much. They're not actively growing, so they don't really need that much moisture. But when you start to see the new growth emerging and the new roots, that would be when you'd really crank it back up. So it's not like a dry rest per se, it's a dryish interlude post-flowering. Now, the other thing that I read, and I cannot for the life of me now remember where, but I read it last week, was that this person was saying, yes, like clockwork, my cattleyas bloom on the same basically day every year, except this particular one that he was photographing, it had decided to bloom at a different point. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Let me have a look at my photographs, because of course everything is date stamped. And sure enough, to the week, this one was in bloom last year, and the white one that's just gone over, exactly a year later, it's bloomed. So isn't that funny? They all run to a 12-month calendar, apart from the ones that don't, of course. But anyway, this one and my other one did. So there you go, another little quirk of cattleyas. Now, often they're fragrant. No and no. Another strike against you. Oh, you poor thing. I mean, look though, look at those very perky, happy flowers. And in fact, to put up two growths, you can perhaps see there, and one has two flowers and one has one. So it's done really well. It's just unfortunate that I don't like it. Anyway, plant lovers, I am not going to be put off, because now I think I've figured out my Cattleya modus operandi. Steering clear of seedlings, because they don't really do that well for me. I mean, a couple of mine have survived. Well, look at this one, actually. This survived. It depends on the lust for life that the seedling has. But what I'm now more interested in is trying to find divisions so you can see the flower. I'm not interested in those pictures you see of seedlings with the two parents and a cross, because you'll end up with a spotty pink flower. So I'm more interested in divisions. Now, they are more expensive, but you have a flowering size plant and you know what you're going to get. So I'm going to kind of cut to the chase. When we move next year, I am going to start just trying to get a couple more divisions of plants which are more sort of monochrome and the type of flower that I like. Anyway, I do have quite a few cattleyas. Most of them are still sort of juvenile and not yet at flowering stage. A few of them are though, so I'm beginning to get there. So both of these have got a few more years left with me until I have a vast array, and then I can make the decision as to which ones to keep and which not. But isn't that funny? You spend all this time trying to perfect your technique and you finally have success, and then they're both the same and you don't really love them. Oh well, plant lovers, you got to have a streak of ruthlessness as a gardener. You really do, because you don't have time or space or energy to waste it on things that you don't really want. So there we are, plant lovers. This is an odd program, really, isn't it? It's really about not liking something after having got it to bloom. Anyway, make of it what you will. I think the takeaway from this is, firstly, avoid seedling cattleyas unless you really are into it. Secondly, try and get divisions when you really know what the flower is. They are more expensive, but you cut out all of that time and wasted energy, I think. The third thing is, no matter what you're growing, you have got to be ruthless. You can't just keep every seedling and every keiki and every plant that is limping along and maybe has done nothing for 2 years. Just get rid of it and find something that does love your conditions and does bring you joy. So that's the moral of the story today, plant lovers. Isn't that wicked? But anyway, I am on the hunt for more cool climate cattleyas that love Melbourne, and there are many, and I'm finding more and more. So fear not, we will have more Cattleya videos. I've even got a playlist now because some of them have actually done so well for me. So that's hilarious. Anyway, and once again, many thanks to Rachel at Gardening Duensa. Her channel recently celebrated its 10th anniversary, which is incredible. And it was her channel where I first really started to watch and learn about orchids from other growers, because Rachel in Ireland grows all her cattleyas on her kitchen windowsill. Basically, that's sort of was the angle that she took, that like me, she was growing them inside. She also has a greenhouse now, so they do go out into the greenhouse in summer, I think, but she still grows a lot of hers on her windowsill. And that's where I first really heard about cattleyas and the growing conditions for that type of environment. So thank you, Rachel, and happy birthday to your channel. Now, if you're remotely interested, Cattleyas, of course, epiphytic, and mine are in a medium-sized bark. This is fabulous pre-drilled pot. Ideal if they can hang up, get plenty of air movement, and free draining mix. Whatever it is you choose to grow depends entirely on your climate and where you are in the world as to what medium you want to plant your plants in and what container. So there's no hard and fast rules. Figure out what works for you. This works for me. This basket has worked for me for this one because it's just so damn vigorous and is just making a run for the hills. So it is in a basket that's lined with sphagnum moss, and then there's medium-sized bark in it, and then I've put another cover of sphagnum over the top just to sort of lock in a bit more of the moisture, and for aesthetic reasons, because the plant was so bulky, it was actually kind of sticking at the top of the basket, so I just wanted the moss to make it look a bit more attractive. Anyway, it's loving life and flowering for me. So there we are, plant lovers. Cattleyas That I Don't Love, a video by Matthew Lucas. Anyway, I hope you have chuckled at least at this video. But if you want to know what we are doing next week, and hopefully it won't be what's going on to the compost bin, you'll have to hit subscribe because I post every week on a Friday. So I very much look forward to whatever our rambling adventure might be. But until then, plant lovers, with my little beautiful Chinese snippers, I'm going to say goodbye. Good luck wherever you are. I hope your flowers are bringing you slightly more joy than mine are. You know what? I'm very happy they bloomed, and flowers do make me happy. There's just an asterisk and a caveat around this one. Anyway, whatever yours are doing, I hope it's bringing you joy, and I look forward to seeing you next week.